everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to Crowd Surfing. This is a show where we talk about Kickstarter, all the different projects on Kickstarter, and just various things regarding that platform. All right, February is most definitely one of the busiest times on Kickstarter. There are huge things going on all the time at any given time. So let's take a look at some of them, and we'll start with the news. Okay, like I said, a lot of projects on Kickstarter. First, we have Leviathan. This is a two-player micro game where you're a bunch of ships up against Moby Dick. This failed once already. This is the second time that they're launching it, doing better this time. I like the idea of this game. The idea of a whale versus Moby Dick, against these guys coming after him. That's a cool concept. It's one that I haven't seen before, although it looks, kind of like airplane fighting or ship fighting or whatever. But that, if it works, this is a cool little theme. Then we have Normandy, the Beginning of the End. This is from Draco Ideas. This is a Spanish company. Tons of counters. This is one of your typical old school looking war games. I shouldn't say old school because, why there's the little chits and 1,000 things and definitely not my style. At the same time, the graphic design looks pretty good and all that. So we're starting to see more war games, I think, headed to Kickstarter, which seems like a really good place for them. Then we have British vs. Pirates. Really, really great miniatures and artwork in this game. Like a little pirate game and things. Some really cool extra things to it. South Seas, some nice maps. Not so sure I'm sold on the graphic design of the game, but other than that, the game looks fantastic. And I like the idea of pirates and moving ships around, so hopefully this is that pirate game that we've been looking for. Sonic the Hedgehog Battle Racers. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog has always been about speed, right? And in fact, not just in his games, but, on the iPad and stuff, there's all these games about running Sonic through different things. So this is the board game version of that. It's by the same designer who did Way of the Fighter. And yet this game is not seemingly to do so well. It's funded, but it's not like this huge thing. Sonic is a pretty strong IP. This game comes with painted miniatures. I don't know why. I would guess maybe because the last Sonic the Hedgehog board game, which actually, no, I'm not sorry, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mega Man the board game, which is another IP similar. It's from a different company and everything, but it was not very good. And video game IPs don't seem to be translated over to board games so well, so maybe that's why people are hesitating on this one. It does look fun, though. Archon, this is a first-time publisher, Hill Gaming Company. This is acquiring clans with influence. It's a little card game, and you need like poker abilities. The thing that's making me look at this one twice is just a lot of people I know are saying really good things about this game, like clever, and you gotta outwit the other people. So that concept sounds pretty cool. Animo, this is the Living Deck Bible Verse card game. All right. Well, if you don't know, I'm a Christian, so I'm always interested in Christian-themed board games. But I don't like Christian-themed board games that are rip-offs of popular games and just kind of a slap things on that. It just seems cheap and lazy. Well, in this case, it's the same thing. This really looks like a rip-off of Pokemon. Really strongly. It looks like the gameplay is different, but the way the characters are drawn, they're definitely Pokemon style and stuff. It's like, come on, let's come up with our own themes. Cryptex. This is a device. I put this in there. It's not even a board game, I guess, but it's in the board game category because this is the kind of thing I found in a puzzle room. I liked where you slide these. It's at first I was looking at the price like, why is this so expensive? I realized it was in a different currency. They're about 30 bucks, but I like the idea of sliding them, making your own custom, hide something inside. Really neat. Necronomicon dice set. Now, this is not made by the same folks from Game Salute who are normally making these dice sets. But it's a different company. They've made basically metal dice, and these are metal too. They look really cool, but they're fairly expensive just to get one or more dice. That doesn't stop me from wanting them because I like all sorts of cool dice. Cooks and Crooks. I love the tagline of this one. Experience the satisfaction of ruining food. Is that the satisfaction? Is there something in that? So in this game, you're making dishes and you're trying to mess other people over with their dishes that they're making. The artwork has the look of a board game, of a app on their phone or something, but it looks cute and fun. I'm always a little worried about take that games messing other people over, how much that is, because sometimes they just turn into, it's a good card played on me, it's a bad card played on someone else. But I'm hoping this one transcends that. Ankle Biters. I like the name of this one also. Pixies vs. Gremlins. This is the second time this one's been launched, actually, but it's doing it much better this time. I really like the artwork here. Basically, you just have Pixies versus Gremlins. They're both small, but they're using all sorts of machinery and things to fight back and forth against each other. Cool, fun theme. Then we have Subatomic. Now, this is my pick of the week. This is the game I'm most interested in. The atom building game. Now, why am I interested in this? For several reasons. One, it's a theme that's I haven't seen before about building atoms, getting electrons and protons and neutrons and things to build atoms. Great. It's a deck building game. I like deck building games. But most importantly, it's done by Genius Games. Genius Games has done so many science-themed games. And now, while I haven't thought that they all were great, some of them have been phenomenal, and they've all been at least extremely interesting ideas that have some hard science behind them, but at the same time, also really good games. I just played one yesterday and was talking about another one yesterday, and then this one, just really, the graphic design, everything looks really good about this one, and I'm so glad to see games like this being made, because it used to be I would go around and talk to people and they'd be like, well, I know you have games for math and English and history, are there games for science people? Well, from Genius Games, definitely so. This one looks really good. From Elderwood, we have Hex Chest mini dice boxes, along with some pebble dice. These are pretty small dice because the whole little hex thing, as you can see there, is a keychain. Now, I don't know that I need to carry a set of dice around with me, but I can't think of a good reason why I wouldn't want to carry a set of dice around with me. So there you go. Pandorum, this is from Cosmodrome. This is a game of planetary colonization. So the idea here, I think the idea of colonization on a space level is a better use of the colonization theme. It looks interesting. A lot of going around and taking your machine and discovering new tiles and things. I like the idea that discovery and the game has a nice, bright, colorful look to it. And then finally, Centrix. Now, this doesn't look like an amazing game, but I put this one on here because it looks like a mass market game. This game looks like a game that you would find at Target or Walmart or whatever. Centrix, and basically you're moving pawns and the board rings, they look like they spin, but it looks like that kind of game like, hey, we haven't seen many other games out there, but it still looks like one that a lot of people will like, and it looks like it might do okay on Kickstarter. I just think it's interesting that we can go from Centrix to Normandy, the beginning of the end, and have all sorts of cool things. That's one of the cool things about Kickstarter. All right, that's the news. Let's keep going.
Hey folks, and welcome to FOMO, the show where I take a look at a game that's currently seeking crowdfunding that I have a fear of missing out on, and maybe you do too. This week's going to be a little special in that after I go through the overview, I'm going to cut over and actually show you an interview I did with the publisher themselves. Today, we're going to take a look at Kami-sama. Kami-sama is a game for 2 to 4 players where players assume the roles of kami, or spirits of the land. Players work to balance their favor with their people and their connection to nature in order to be crowned Kami-sama and the winner of the game. This takes place over 3 in-game years, with each year being 4 rounds long. Each round, the players take turns using all of their action cubes to perform the actions they wish to do. Characters in the game are asymmetric in their abilities, but every player has the ability to add or remove shrines from the board. Unless an ability allows a player to do otherwise, they will only be taking actions within the current village assigned to them for that round. In the first year, players have 3 action cubes to use, and they have 4 in the second and 5th in the third and final round. Largely, players will be looking to add to their influence within the village by placing shrines. When placing in forests or fields, they'll also be gaining nature and favor points. Placing in a temple gains them one or the other, but also gives them tiebreaker decisions in the endgame phase. After each round, the board rotates and players now take their turns in their new current village. In addition, there is a goal in place throughout each round that allows players to earn village tokens that can also gain them extra victory points in a set collection manner. After the 4th round of a year, an end-of-year phase happens. Villager cards will be drafted by the players for each village in order of influence. These cards can get instant benefits as well as reward extra victory points at the end of the game. Players gain victory points equal to the lower of the 2 values between their nature and favor tracks, and then players reset these to 0 and prepare for the next year, gaining additional action cube. After the 3rd year, players will then gain points for the villager cards they have, and 1 victory point for each village token that they had not previously scored as part of a 6-point set of 4 during the game. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Hey folks, I'm here at Epic Con with Travis Chance from Colossal Games. We are looking at Kami-sama, which is currently on Kickstarter right now, and is currently my FOMO pick for the week. So Travis is going to tell me why it should be my FOMO.
I think Kami-sama is unique. It's a special game. It's a nice mix of the familiar set collection drafting, public objectives, special powers, area majority, but the presentation is such that it's done in a unique way and a kind of a refreshing way.
Okay. So this board, it spins and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the gist of the game is simply we're playing area control, but we're all compartmentalized in a village at a time. And then the board rotates, and suddenly now what I built, the next player is either building upon, interacting with, etc. It is a competitive game, but like I said earlier, it's more about you don't completely compete in each village. You kind of compete over those intersections for where the goals meet and how you move your tracks up and things like that.
Right, and one thing I really liked is so it plays over the different years, and that first year things were, you didn't have to worry about what you were doing in the first round, but in that second year when all these spaces are, how many spaces are there?
There's 15 spaces in each
village. So by then, all those spaces were filled, and I really did feel that tension of the way the players work together.
Yeah, and it's nice, too, that the game, it almost feels like the first few turns are a tutorial. You're like, oh, I get to place things, I'm not being disrupted.
Right.
And then suddenly the board rotates on its third or fourth turn, and you're like, wait a minute, there's not a lot of spaces left. I'm going to have to start fighting for what I want.
Right. Now, to be fair, in the first round, I came out swinging.
Oh, yeah. So, and you were punished for it later.
I was punished for it. This game is very back and forth. Take that. So if anyone is looking at this game right now and they're thinking about backing it and are on the fence, what would you say to them as a final thought?
Like I said, I think the game is special. It's unique. It plays quickly. It's got a lot of really meaningful decisions. It's got a lot of what I call dopamine hit moments. So you're like, oh, I completed a goal and I moved up this track, which is going to do this, and then I got my set. And so you have a lot of these kind of the big cinematic, cool, memorable moments in the game. There's not just like one or two of those in the game. There's lots of those throughout the game. You know, there's the puzzle of trying to master your character, and once you figure out how to play your character really correctly, it's like really replayable. I think it's extremely beautiful. Lots of reasons.
Okay.
Lots and lots of reasons.
Well, that is Kami-sama. I will cut over to my thoughts, and I appreciate you joining us. Thank you. So that's a brief look at Kami-sama. Now, I'm not going to go into my full thoughts because I did give you some of them in my interview with Travis Chance from Colossal Games, and thank you to him for sitting down with us. Now, overall, I will say I love this game, and this was an auto back for me the second I played it, and these are going to be my FOMO scores for this game. I hope you've enjoyed this look at it. That was a prototype copy, and I look forward to seeing you folks next time.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. That's the general philosophy, and I see this a lot. You know, several of the Kickstarters that I talked about today, I want to say 3 of them were Kickstarters that failed, and they retooled them and started them over again. I think that's a good idea, right? If your Kickstarter doesn't do well, you have to take a look and say, why didn't it do well? Maybe you didn't show enough pictures of the game. Maybe the art really turned people off. Maybe you didn't market it right. Maybe you put it up at the wrong time of the year. There's a lot of reasons Kickstarters can be done poorly. I think Jamie would be a much better person to explain why than I am. But when they don't do well, you know, that's a kind of discouraging thing to sit there and say, oh man, I put all my effort into this project and it fails. The idea of seeing something fail is nothing that any of us want to see happen, but it does happen. And it can be discouraging, and you can say, well, you know, maybe this isn't for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that at some point, right? To say, you know what, I can't handle this stress. I don't want to do this. I give up. But other people will try again. And some really successful Kickstarters have been from people putting them up a second time. And the second time, you have the advantage of usually the first time, people backing it, and then they'll come back and do it again. And then also you have a chance to say, okay, this is what people didn't like. Maybe they didn't like this early bird stuff. Maybe they didn't like this or that. We'll change it. Maybe they wanted more stretch goals. We'll add those things. You know, whatever the thing was, there's more that could be added to it. So that's kind of interesting to me. Now, second time does not always work. There was a Kickstarter I backed years ago, and I backed the Kickstarter because I knew one of the people involved in the project, and I said, okay, this is good. Well, the project, the people who were running the project was succeeding, but it wasn't succeeding as well as they thought it should. I mean, it hit the goal, but they wanted to hit way farther than the goal, so they canceled it. And then they restarted it a bit later, and I was like, why? And that annoyed me so much that I didn't go back at the second time. Because I said, you know, wait a minute, you asked for a certain amount of money, and this is always one of my pet peeves. If you ask for a certain amount of money, then that's the amount of money you want. I mean, I get that you want more, right? We all want more when we run our Kickstarters. But if you need more, then you say you need more. Don't lie about your goal. That's a whole different topic. But that time when they restarted, they kind of lost me. And you can also lose people, I guess, if you act like a jerk to them in your Kickstarter, you know, and don't treat people well, and then you restart, or, you know, you change things and people don't like the changes. So the second, you know, restarting a second time isn't always a positive thing, but I think for the most part it is. And many of the projects I talked about today, they didn't succeed the first time, but the second time now they're doing much, much better because they can learn from their mistakes. So don't give up if you're running a Kickstarter, but learn. Don't just restart it. Try to say what went wrong the first time before you do it again. Try again.
This is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about reward strategies, like which rewards you should have on your project and how much you should price them. This is a big topic that I cover in 20 different lessons on my Kickstarter Lessons blog. I would recommend you read them in detail. This will just be the quick and simple version of it, very quick. I recommend that creators have 3 different reward levels, 2 or 3 at most. The first one I recommend being a core reward. So just like a copy of the game, the retail version of the game. Maybe you have some promos in there for Kickstarter backers, but very basic core level. And we'll say, for this example, say it's $39. Then I recommend having a premium level. A premium level is one that is close enough to in price to the core reward that people will be enticed to go for the premium version or to upgrade at some point during the project. But it usually includes nicer stuff. It may be a nicer box and includes some metal coins, something nicer in there that's too expensive to put as a stretch goal, and that you're not going to put in the retail version of the game. So it will be a special Kickstarter thing that you can sell separately later as an add-on. And in this example, if we have the core reward at $39, you might want to price that premium reward at $49 or $59 at most. So it's still pretty close to that core reward. And what you'll probably see is that not many people end up backing the core reward because they want the premium reward. They've used that as an anchor price to kind of psychologically convince themselves that they're getting a better deal, which they probably are. And you should price it so they are getting a better deal by going for the premium version. And last, optionally, you can have a third reward for if you have a big special thing in very limited quantities, like play a game with you or have you personally deliver their game. Something, those are great examples, but something very unique and special and limited. Really think through the implications of that. Like, do you actually want to be delivering games or playing games with random people? Think about that. But that can be a nice higher limited reward. Notice in those I do not have an early bird. I do not recommend using early bird rewards. And notice also that in those examples I use the number 9 as the end of the price. The number 9 is psychologically positive for people to see. They feel like they're getting a good deal when you have that number 9 in there. Obviously you want the price to be accurate based on your budget and whatnot, but if you use that 9 instead of a 0 or an 8, it will have a positive impact. And last, I would recommend wrapping in at least some shipping subsidy into the reward price. So if shipping to the US costs $15 and to other places in the world it costs maybe $20, $25, include maybe $10, maybe the full $15 in the reward price, and then that way backers feel like they're adding on less for shipping, which can be nice for them to do if you have a little bit of that subsidy built into it. And last, notice that I did not have a retailer reward level in those examples. I would highly recommend putting a note on the project page that says, hey retailers, if you want a bunch of copies of this game or even just a few copies, contact me directly. But I would not put that in the reward column because you don't have control over who actually pledges to that reward if you put it in the reward sidebar. Those are my recommendations. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments here or on my blog. Thanks.
And that's it for another crowd surfing. Thanks so much, guys, for showing up every other week to take a look at this. I want to thank Jamie and all the rest of the gang for their segments. If you're ever interested in being part of this show, simply let me know. Tell me in the comments what Kickstarters you're looking forward to. There's a lot of great ones coming out. There's a lot that are starting within a week. You know, there's some big stuff coming down the pike. There's Kickstarters being sent out to all different people too. There's lots of Kickstarters that are finishing up. At some point, I need a segment on that. Like the Kickstarters that have shown up this week, you know, been delivered. Lots of cool things happening in the industry. Anyway, I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for watching Crowd Surfing. This has been the Dice Tower.